What is up, YouTube? It is your boy, Classic Tony. I was out the other day doing one of my favorite things, and that is secondhand shopping, when I came across this old school plug-and-play, like Atari CRT compatible thing for like $5. I was like, I am buying this. And I love these things, and it got me thinking about the idea of plug-and-plays, custom controllers, really all those old school things that just really don't seem to happen very much anymore. And so I wanted to sort of do a deep dive into the good, the bad, and sort of find out what makes an effective custom controller, and whether or not a custom controller could even work in 2025. Just to make things clear, when I say custom controller, I don't mean like a customized controller or even a modded controller. I'm talking about controllers like plug-and-plays, the Zapper from the NES, Guitar Hero controllers, the Wii Fit balance board, and things like that. So in this video, I'm going to be analyzing what makes for a good custom controller, comparing that to some semi-recent examples of not so great custom controllers, and then using that information to determine what, if any, custom controller could exist in 2025. Hopefully y'all agree with me. Let's get into it. So some really good examples of custom or game-specific controllers are the plug-and-plays, your Guitar Hero and Rock Band setups, as well as the DK Jungle Beat bongos. And before I get into any of them, I just want you all to know that I've had experience with all of these controllers. Now, I'm not saying that these controllers are perfect in any way, but the things that they do are they offer versatility, usability, and easily accessible games. Now, they all do this a little bit differently. Okay, so let me get into versatility. For example, Rock Band and Guitar Hero kept releasing multiple games so that you could continue to use your previous Guitar or Rock Band setup with the new game. You didn't need to purchase a new custom controller every time. What this meant is that if the next game came out, you didn't have to buy the full package. If you didn't want to buy the guitar or band setup, you could just buy the game, which was significantly cheaper than the whole setup, and use your previous guitar. That versatility amongst games is what allows for a good custom controller to exist. Being able to use it in one game, and then if a later game releases either in a series or a similar series, being able to use that controller somewhere else. The DK Jungle Beat bongos also offer this versatility, but through a simple means of modding. See, if you have a controller that is compatible, that does work well, you can then mod it and people could do a lot of fun, interesting things with it. Now, do I think modding should be necessary to make a great custom controller? Absolutely not. But allowing a controller to be used across multiple platforms or for different games just by having it be accessible via a USB or easier way to connect to computers is definitely something that allows for a great custom unique controller. And that leads nicely into usability, the idea of being able to hold a controller that feels good. The Guitar Hero controllers, they actually felt like a lightweight guitar. The same goes for all of the Rock Band equipment. As for the DK bongos, those things had so much weight you could knock out your brother with them. Additionally, I think too, the plug-and-play controllers, well, yes, it was more of a gimmick than anything else to make them look like Spider-Man or SpongeBob or some superhero or whatever, but visually, the way that they looked, being compelling, colorful, bright, intriguing, that means that they're not necessarily usable, right, for the sense of like being useful, but they're usable in the sense of you like to look at them, they're displayable, they're interestingly designed. And lastly, like I've kind of been hinting at with all of these, is the accessibility to a plethora of games. Guitar Hero and Rock Band, they kept releasing games that were compatible with the previous models of guitars and equipment. Something similar can be said for the DK bongos and how you could plug those into a computer and mod them into other games. I've even watched runs of people, I think, playing Demon Souls or Dark Souls with the DK bongos. It's insane stuff. And the plug-and-plays just sort of having that ease of access to games. The games were already built on, you just plugged it in and you just hit start and you went. There wasn't a need for setting things up or a connection feature or all of these other things that made it difficult to use a custom controller. You just plugged and played. I don't know really where I'm going to fit this in, but I'm just going to say it because I remember being a kid and playing Guitar Hero, and I went to GameStop and talked to the guy about the next Guitar Hero game and all this stuff, and I remember an adult walked in, another gentleman walked in who was much older than me at that point, probably in his 20s, and he started asking about Rock Band and when the next Rock Band game was coming out, and I listened to their conversation, and I remember stopping and saying to that guy who I had never met before, I just asked him, I said, hey, what's the difference between Rock Band and Guitar Hero? He's like, oh, do you like Guitar Hero? And I said, yeah, I love it. And he said, oh, you'll love Rock Band, it's like this. And I spent a good 20-30 minutes just actually having a conversation with a complete and total stranger about that game. There was something about those controllers, even to this day. I don't know how to explain it other than if you lived in that time, if you grew up with those games, you have that genuine love and passion for Guitar Hero. It is just one of those games that is so simplistic in its approach, but they just did it right. The controllers were done right. The same with Rock Band. All of the different Rock Band controllers, it was just done right. It was fun. Inviting your friend over and playing a night of Guitar Hero or Rock Band was legendary at that time. And I think if anybody knows South Park, the episode that South Park did is exactly how it was. You felt like a rock star until you beat the game and you realized you were by yourself and you needed your homies to make it feel good. Oh, I love those games. So a quick recap. The ideal custom controller should be versatile enough to work across multiple games and platforms. It should be usable and easily accessible by all gamers, and should be simple to set up with no additional setup needed between games. Next, we get into some examples of custom controllers that really just missed the mark. And before I get into any of them, I just want you all to know that I've had experience with all of these controllers except for the last one. Let's get into it. First up, we have the Wii Balance Board and the plethora of plastic accessories that went with the Wii controller. For the Wii Balance Board, yes, they had Wii Fit and Wii Fit Plus, but they never elaborated on that. These things were bulky, they were heavy, they were cumbersome, they took up a lot of space in the room, and you almost had to find a place to like hide it behind your TV or whatever to make it even feasible to have it. And outside of like Wii Fit and Wii Fit Plus and a handful of other games, it really offered little functionality. I think that the Wii Balance Board offered a unique opportunity where you have what is effectively two motion controllers underneath your feet. For example, imagine if you had, say, Mario Kart Wii, one of the best-selling Wii games of all time, and you could use the accelerate and brake functionality on a Wii Balance Board, right? Like, right foot is gas, left foot is brake, and you kind of have to like lean and drive. Now, this is a very theoretical example, but I'm just saying that offering more usability for such a specific and very heavy and very, cumbersome piece of technology, why not offer more integration into other games? Even if it's minimal, even if it's just simple functionality of like a left or a right. I think of games like WarioWare, which could have incorporated a balance board almost seamlessly. It just feels like a missed opportunity there. And as for all of the plastic accessories that made the Wii Remote something different, it really didn't offer anything other than just a new way to press a button, a new way to hold the controller that you could do already in and of itself. Like I said with WarioWare, you were holding the controller in a bunch of unique ways in that kind of game. It's not like you needed a plastic add-on, you just held the controller the way you wanted. Same for games like Mario Kart Wii. You just held the controller sideways or used a Nintendo GameCube controller and or some mods. The next custom controller that really missed the mark was the Tony Hawk Ride skateboard. This thing was... I remember getting it and just being like, this is awful. Like, I cannot describe to you how miserable this thing was. It took forever to set up. It had like almost unusable integration because it really wanted you to like imitate what was effectively regular skateboarding, but regular skateboarding, from anybody who's done it, involves snapping and popping and sliding and doing these movements with your feet that this controller did not allow. And not to mention, yes, they released Tony Hawk Ride, and then I believe another one after that that improved on the controller itself. It made a little bit more slow, seamless integration, which is great. That's what you want to see for a controller like this. But as far as a game series like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, why is there not more integration? Or why was there not this grander thought of how this controller could be used otherwise? Same again, it was so cumbersome and unresponsive that using it just felt like a chore. It almost felt like, hey, I might as well just go back and play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 or Tony Hawk Underground. The next example of lackluster custom controllers is the Pokemon Let's Go Pokeball Plus. People didn't like this thing upon a release, for good reason. It was expensive, it only worked with the Let's Go games, which yeah, you get 2 of them, but they're nearly identical. And something about me loves the way that this Pokeball looks, and thinks that it could have been used so much better, right? It's basically a single Joy-Con when you think about it, with just a shake functionality. And that really was only useful for the Let's Go games, but why can't I use it across multiple Pokemon games? Oh sure, you can connect it, but because it's a single Joy-Con, it offers no functionality in any actual Pokemon game. So I feel like this was just a missed opportunity. I think back to like the 3DS era with the Pokemon walk thing, like that little keychain that you could send a Pokemon to and you walked around. It basically operated as a pedometer and a Pokemon nursery kind of all in one. You would send a Pokemon over, walk around with it for a little while, and it would level up. Even just offering that kind of functionality with this in modern Pokemon games would be great. I just think that this is such a missed opportunity. You have this really cool controller. It looks great on a shelf. It works with 1-2 games at that, when you have this franchise where it could work across multiple games. Even if it doesn't have the same functionality, the exact same functionality, why not incorporate something more useful, something more interesting, something more usable? So the last custom controller, and the only one I haven't had personal experience with, is the Nintendo Switch Slime controller. Finally, a controller that's versatile and works on a plethora of games. Why the hell? Who the fuck? What? Why? Why Nintendo? Who approved this? Why would? Oh my god. Okay, so great. Finally, custom controller that's unique and clever and funny, and it looks great on a shelf and all these great things. But the usability got thrown out the window. This is the definition of form over function, where you just think about how something looks, not how it's going to be held, not how somebody's going to use it. I mean, you could have somehow, and I don't know how I could rationalize this, but maybe just like finger slots where your hands slip in, or maybe it's a controller cover that sits on top of a regular controller that you can pop off. I don't know, but this is not it, Nintendo. This is not how you do. This is not how anyone should do a custom controller. This is just almost unusable. So to answer the question, are custom controllers dead in 2025? It's complicated. I don't think that there could be a custom controller that is universal across multiple games, comfortable enough to be used, and functional across what is effectively a plethora of games. Something that works in, say, a RPG will definitely not work in a first-person shooter. Something that works in a first-person shooter might work in a third-person shooter, but it definitely won't work in a puzzle game, so I don't think that a custom controller in that sense is going to work. However, something I've been kind of leading up to, and I didn't want to talk about until now, is the idea of custom controllers for accessibility in gaming. One of the most interesting and amazing things to me is that there are more innovations being made around accessibility in gaming than ever before. Sony, Xbox, Nintendo, I hesitate to say that last one, but companies are genuinely making an effort to try and address what is effectively, I think the word is ableism, I believe is the word is to try and tackle the idea of ableism in gaming. I think that's the word. I'm sorry if I'm incorrect. But if somebody, for example, was born without a hand, born without a finger even, born without a thumb, like just something that simple, being able to play gaming is much more difficult for them than for somebody who has all appendages. And so the idea of a controller being universal isn't universal necessarily. And so I love this idea of accessibility in gaming, custom controllers that are for people who have physical disabilities, the ideas of being able to use your mouth as a controller to move your sight around, the idea of a controller that is more of just a unique shape that is easily pressable with, say, somebody's forearm or knee or something different. I love that that's the direction that custom controllers are going, because it shows that companies actually care about pushing gaming and allowing accessibility to all sorts of people. So no, I don't think that we're going to have a motion controller or a DK bongos kind of controller that works for a plethora of games. No, not at all. But I think that the positive that can be taken away from this is that companies are genuinely putting time, energy, resources, and most importantly, money into making gaming accessible for everybody, which is genuinely a good thing. I find it hard to argue with that statement, but the point is I love that this is the direction that custom controllers are going. The idea of helping people, improving gaming, and spreading gaming to a bigger and broader community. Well, that's it. I'm Classic Tony. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want more. And as I always say on this channel, please take it easy and peace. The DK Jungle Beat barrels. I keep saying barrels! Stop saying fucking barrels! They're bongos! DK Jungle Beat bongos. There we go. But they were near identical, like most Pokemon games. You get one, you pretty much get the other, except for a handful of Pokemon. I'm not going to get into that. But basically, all this controller did was offer a new single-handed way to play the game. I don't like the way that sounds. Ooh. A single-handed Pokemon experience, full 3D Gardevoir. That's how they should have marketed it. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Okay. Oh, that was from the heart, man. That was from the heart. I love accessibility in gaming, man. I love that shit.